You're giving some mudra of blessings or something?
Sorry, I had to start the stream.
Mm.
Oh, wow. Who can understand the way the Lord flows in and out of our lives, through us, into the world, and back to us again? I can't understand it, but I can witness it, and I can feel it, and I can be ever grateful for it, for all the ways it shows up in my life through all of you. Let us be open to the presence of the divine in all things, at all times, and in all ways it wants to reveal itself to us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bhakti-rasa. Welcome you all. Happy birthday, Bhakti-rasa. And yeah, welcome to our weekly satsang, where we basically involuntarily dare to open the door once again, dare to open the door to the truth, to the call of the divine, and dare to enter a circle of trust, hopefully, safe vessel, intimacy, where we can get together and recreate the ideal dynamics of life, right? How reality is supposed to make sense, right? How we can live life and experience life in a way that it is sustainable for eternity, that we are having a glimpse of, oh, I think I could be doing this forever. That's when you are getting a real grace in bhakti, I will say. When we have this glimpse of, I see myself doing this for eternity. Okay, now we are getting it. Now bhakti is becoming what it is, right? When we have a glimpse of how we can relate to each other, how we can share with each other in ways that are really, again, sustainable in forever, in the afterlife, and now, here and now, starting here and now and extending into forever, into the rest of forever, as Sumati would like to say. So yeah, celebrating a birthday like today is Bhakti-rasa's birthday, and of course, each one of you have your birthday once in a year at the same time. It shouldn't be limited to once in a year. It's once in a year reminder of what's taking place on a daily basis, on a second-based, every second-based moment, and that's the glory of celebrating the opportunity that we are receiving. I cannot but recall once this famous situation with someone went to Srila Siddhar Maharaj and they told him, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, today is my birthday, and according to the Vedic calendar, is the most inauspicious day of the year." So the devotee was kind of like lukewarm, right? Like, oh, I'm not sure if I am to celebrate anything today, because that seems to be quite a non-blessed constellations. And he will immediately interrupt that, says, stop right there. Yeah, today is the most blessed day, because you have received this form, this human body, this vessel, the blossoming of consciousness that accompanies the human species, and the thirst and the inquiry that defines the human adventure. Atatu Brahma Jignasa, right? Vedanta Sutra said, you are born as a human to inquire into the sweet absolute, period. That's what we are here for. So we are celebrating that adventure we are set on. Life is an adventure, and we should be more interested into adventure than in preserving the status quo. That's what Krishna is interested in. One name of Krishna is Urukrama. Urukrama means the great adventurer. So if your Ishta Devata, your chosen deity, one of his name is the great adventurer, you better prepare for some adventure yourself. And again, adventure can only happen outside of the predictable, outside of the box. in one sense. I mean, we can visit the box here and there a little bit. It's okay. But but we have to be brave, my friends. So, I mean, many times we just enter into a box so we don't have to be brave. So reality is all about bravery and courageousness, and daring to embrace adventure, which is an ongoing call to courage, to embrace a new layer of quantum leap. That's the mood of the gopis of Vrindavan. It's at every step the unknown, the mystery, the unexpected, the flute calling who knows from where, and their willingness to just jump and follow and run and give their lives from tip to toe at every second of their lives into every unexpected invitation that will knock at the doors. So so this was Krishna consciousness, and real genuine spirituality in any genuine mystical tradition is about, right? Trying to dare to make those steps. And again, that's what we are here for. And I will say we celebrate one's birthday when one is born. Okay, I assume when I was born 44 years ago, there was a birthday on my birthday. But the next year comes, especially if you are taking advantage of this precious human vessel, every birthday that comes after the next one is most worthy of celebration, because after every birthday, you are upgrading your potential on a new level. So every single birthday becomes more worthy of being celebrated, because your existence is becoming more and more justified, so to say, more and more aligned with its original intent and potential. So yeah, just some reflections on the word birthday, right? So we don't just merely like reduce that to a shallow festivity, but really ponder the depths of what brings us here. Why birthday entails the question why we were born to begin with. Of course, the soul is not born, soul doesn't die. We can get there, but at the same time, we are born in a particular circumstance, in a particular environment, and we are a product of the environment. So we are invited to, in the proper way, take advantage of the environment, and honoring the particular vessel in which we have manifested in this particular lifetime for some particular reason, for sure, and learn our lessons and be humble and be grateful and have radical acceptance, and try to hone our humanity and try to refine our emotional disposition in the service of the divine, and integrate suffering, integrate complexity, integrate all the unintegrated layers, unredeemed bits and parts, and make them all of our glorious golden part of our Bhakti project, right? The other day I was listening to a few words of one of my mentors, Father Richard Rohr, and he will be saying this type of one-liners that leave your head spinning for the rest of the week or something minimum. And he will speak about sentimentality. He said sentimentality is cheap emotion, and that means emotion that is not earned or refined by suffering. That was a very powerful point. Of course, he was not promoting suffering for the sake of suffering, but he was saying everyone will suffer. Now the thing is, you have to learn from that suffering, or you have to learn how to suffer, so that learned suffering can inform your emotional disposition, your experience in life. You can make that part of the journey. And it's, of course, not only regarding suffering, it's regarding whatever comes on our way, how we can make that part of the journey. Integrated spirituality. The opposite of integrated is disintegrated. You choose integration or disintegration. And we know disintegration sounds like Armageddon, like apocalypse, is collapse. So integration is the option. So yeah, birthday. Happy birthday, Bhaktirasa, and happy birthday to each one of you. We are being born at every moment. We are dying at every moment. That's how to make sense of life. And we need to embrace so many deaths to be born to what we need to be born to. So that's what our days and nights and twilights in between are destined for. So it's another glorious day, like every single other occasion that comes with us, every single breath opportunity we have. it's a glorious chance to choose in the right direction, right? To embrace our beloved. Like I think I was saying the other day when Father Thomas Keating, once he was talking about centering prayer, and he invited some nuns to meditate, to be in silence and try to be present to God's presence for 20 minutes. And one of the nuns says at the end, you don't know how many 10,000s of times my mind went somewhere else. And he say, oh, lovely, 10,000 times to choose God back, right? So it's all about the angle of vision, right? It's all about having the right perspective. Everything becomes part of the journey in that case. So, okay. Again, happy birthday, Bhakti Rasa. All glories to each one of you, actually. And we have a few raised hands, so we will honor those now. And we'll begin with Katie from Minnesota. No, you are still Minnesota? Still there, okay. Katie from Minnesota there.
Pranams, everyone. Maharaj, so nice to be here with all of you today. My question has to do with asking God or not asking God to help with our desires, dreams, intentions, because I've heard different angles of different perspectives on that. You know, I've heard don't ask God for anything except for just to do his will. And I've heard, you know, you can pray for things and expect that he's going to help and fulfill your desires. And I was just interested in hearing your thoughts on that, whether it's like, okay, maybe the highest standard is to not ask for anything except for to do God's will, but we have to be authentic and be where we're at and not like spiritual bypass or pretend. And so, you know, if we feel like we need help achieving certain things here, then maybe just do that while we pray internally to be at a more advanced level someday.
Thank you. Yeah, important question, important quest, as we would like to say, Q&A, quest and exploration. So, verse comes to my mind from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Akama sarva kamava moksha kama dharaditi brena bhakti yogena jayeta purusham param. In that verse, it is say that akama sarva kama va moksha kama. So whether you are akama, sarva kama, or moksha kama, which means whether you have no desire whatsoever, whether you are sarva kama, whether you have all desires in the world, or whether you are moksha kama, whether you only have one desire, which is to get rid from all desires and be liberated, whatever the case in those three and all the possibilities in between, Tibrena Bhakti Yogena Jayeta Purusham Param. You firmly engage in Bhakti Yoga to Param Purusha, to the Supreme Person. So that verse for me puts the whole thing in context, right? Bhakti is comprehensive. Bhakti is not just, okay, Krishna is not saying you can only approach me when you have desires. You can only approach me when you don't have desires. You can only approach me when you have only one desire, this particular one. I'm only there for you in that moment. He's saying, I'm here for you. You come to me, wherever you are. Wherever you are in your journey, that's the beginning point. Don't wait to attain some imagined standard of purity or perfection, and then I worship God. No, it's not like, okay, I will purify myself and then I will approach God. No, you will approach God and then you will purify yourself. That's the order of the math, right? It's not like, oh, first I will become immaculate and perfect and then practice bhakti. That will never happen. You start practicing bhakti with whatever you have and whatever you are, as messy, as broken as you are, and the healing process begins right there. That's what this verse is saying. I mean, I'm just reading between the lines of this verse. Krishna is saying, whether you have all the desires in the world, come to me. And you have no desires in the world, come to me. And you have one desire, come to me. We have no excuse but to come to me, right? So, of course, many of us may identify more with those who have maybe some desires or a lot of all the desires in the world, maybe more than with those who are free from desire and all that. And Krishna, again, another verse that comes in the Gita, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, and so on. For famous word, Artha Jignasur Artha Tigyani Chavaratarshava. Krishna is saying, those who approach me are of different types. Again, you have a different version of the same verse in the Gita, 7th chapter. Krishna is acknowledging there's people who approach me because they are suffering and they want relief, and they come to me, and I welcome them. There's people who approach me because they want financial development, and I welcome them. I'm not rejecting them. I'm not saying you are not pure. Now, how you dare to come to me asking for money? Now, how you dare not to come to me in the mood of the gopis? That's not Krishna. Some people want knowledge, something more subtle, but it still is some form of intellectual desire. I want to know. And some other people just want me, and they come to me. So it's similar to this example once gave. Some people may go to Bill Gates' house and ask him, can you give me some money? Some other people may say, can you give me the knowledge that took you to become multi-billionaire so I can become multi-billionaire? And some other people may say, I'm just here for you. I'm ready to serve you and please you. And I can tell you the last approach probably will shake the foundations of Bill Gates' life, because probably nobody goes to him like that. But still, of course, I'm using Bill Gates as an analogy with Krishna. Sorry for falling short in the analogy, but you follow my point. In this case, Krishna will open the door to everyone, right? He will reciprocate accordingly. So no matter where we are, we have to begin there. Like Krishna tells Uddhava in the Bhagavatam, you can offer me the things that I like the most, Krishna is saying. And he then gives the second option, you can offer me the things that you like the most. Because in some stage of your journey, it may be difficult for you to identify with what I like the most. Let's be honest, that can be high, that can be deep, just to live for developed pleasure and fully identify with what they want and engage in a sacred, healthy type of self-forgetfulness in divine love. That's not cheap, and we have to be careful not to imitate that in a dysfunctional way. So Krishna knows, and he's realistic, and he knows maybe if you force yourself to just offer what I like the most, you may not be that present during that offering. Now, if your favorite stuff is pizza, probably you will be quite more emotionally invested in that offering, anticipating the relishment of that, but you are making me part of that. And Krishna said, and I appreciate that. Of course, in an objective scale, we may say that's not the same as the standard of the gopis, fine, but everything has its place. And I'm not saying this to become conformist and to shoot for the lowest common denominator, but also not to shoot for the highest one in a way that is too much. So that's our sincerity in finding a sustainable middle point that keeps challenging and inviting us for something deeper, right? So, and at the end of the day, also something that I would like to say, because I mentioned this verse of the Bhagavatam, which says, Akama sarvo kama va. So, okay, someone has all material desire, someone wants only to get rid of material desire, and someone has no desire. But then we can make on top of that, the idea that ultimately we are to become full of desire in the service of Krishna. No, if you analyze the law of the Brajavasis, they're full of desires. Krishna is full of desire for them. Desire is not a bad word, just to destigmatize the term. Because sometimes we use words like enjoyment, desire, and we, in a subtle way, we end up crucifying each one of those words and ourselves along with them. But there is a proper place for each one of them. I mean, if you pay close attention to what's going on in the ultimate realm, that's total, full of celebration, full of enjoyment, full of desire, full of suffering also. But in the context of love, it's full of everything. It's too much, right? There's this verse from the Rig Veda. And again, I'm not referring to Bhagavad, I'm going to the Rig Veda. I quote that in Radical Personalism, that the sweet absolute is described as sarva rasa, sarva gandha, sarva kama, sarva everything. So sarva, this means he has all taste, all desires, all forms, all everything, all smells, all. It's an never too much in the bad sense of the term, but it's something, how to say, rich, robust with, in this case, desire, in the context of love, attachment, passion. So we have to, it's interesting because if at the beginning you can say, okay, someone begins a spiritual life full of desires, and gradually you are supposed to have less and less of those material self-centered desires. But eventually it makes full circle and you are back to a place where you are full of desires again, but now not in a self-centered way. We just need to put the center in its own place, and then everything falls into context. Everything falls into the right place. We just need to acknowledge the actual center. When we say, I have self-centered desire, that means basically you have the wrong center in place. You think you are the center, and that's why you speak in terms of self-centeredness. But when you really know, in theory, and of course live as if the real center is the center, you realize that in practice, you can have all the desires you want. With that center in place, the more desires you have, the better you will. You pay close attention to the life of the gopis, the gopas, all the pure devotees, they have endless streams of desires, but all those desires are, again, manifesting in the context of giving pleasure to the object of their affection. If we are not there yet, again, going back to a more realistic situation that some of us may be, and still we have some desires that somehow we acknowledge they are not the most Krishna-centered stuff, at least try to make Krishna part of that somehow or other. That's how, when one day we'll tell Prabhupada things like that. That was his point. Prabhupada had this problem with drinking wine. We just offer the wine to Krishna. He didn't have a second thought. He didn't say, no, you have to stop drinking wine. He realized you cannot stop doing that. Oh, I have this problem with that. Try to make Krishna part of that. Krishna won't become contaminated by your wine drinking. Right? Like Narad Muni with the famous hunter, right? He was a hunter. He killed people. Generally, killing people is not described as favorable for a spiritual life, right? He was killing animals more specifically. Still, that's not in the list of anukul, those things for favorable. So Narad Muni was there. Narad Muni, he realized, to be realistic, I cannot expect this hunter to stop killing animals. I cannot tell him, from now on, you become a Buddha, right? The personification of nonviolence and become vegan or whatever. He said, you just keep killing, but recite this mantra. And he gave the word Mara, right? Which means death. So he even invited him to sing the name of death, which doesn't seem like the normal prescription from a guru to a disciple. From now on, your mantra is death. But of course, the more you say Mara, the more you say Rama, right? Mara, 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 Mara. So he ended up singing the name of Ram. And after some time, he couldn't even walk on top of an ant. But Narada Muni, the idea, the teaching of the story is you have to meet people where they're at, period. Be realistic. Don't over expect from other people. If you are doing that, probably you're doing that with yourself also. You're just setting an unrealistic pattern of over idealization and over expectation. And externally, it sounds nice and everyone looks like a superhero, but it's totally unrealistic and in time, unsustainable. So this is the teaching, no? Narada Muni is guru par excellence, guru paradigm figure par excellence. And he will say, okay, you are a killer. Let's see. Okay, continue killing and sing the name of death. How does it sound to you? And he was like, yeah, that's great. I'm in ecstasy. Great. But he did it in a way, again, as we can see from the outcome, that he eventually, became upgraded from his previous situation. So that's how it works. And that's where Krishna reaches us. So again, if I know that, I don't know, okay, to give examples, we know, okay, the 6 Goswamis will sleep, it will say poetically, they will sleep under a different tree every night, which basically means they didn't have a clue where they will sleeping at night. They were just, okay, it's time to sleep, and they will sleep wherever they were. But for some of us, that's too much. We need some more certainty. I need to have certainty of a particular roof under which I will be sleeping tonight. So you cannot just torture yourself by not being on the standard of the 6 Goswamis and say, oh, Krishna, I'm such a bad person. I'm praying you for a roof under which to sleep. I shouldn't be okay sleeping under every tree. I mean, that's not susu kam kartum, as Krishna says in the Gita. You are supposed to practice bhakti relatively with joy, in a natural way, no, not traumatized, not neuroticized. So again, it all boils down to this line of the Bhagavatam, which the Gita unpacks a lot. Swe adhikari janishta saguna parikirtita. You have to acknowledge your adhikar. That's real virtue. You have to ascertain where you are now. That's real beauty. To acknowledge where you are, and of course, look for growth and progress, but only that can happen acknowledging where you are now. You can only I can only fly from here, from North Carolina to Washington, D.C., like I will be doing next week. First, if I get to the airport and I get to the proper platform. If not, I will never reach there. So first you have to acknowledge where you are, what's your platform, and then you can try to do the quantum leap you want to make, right? So realism, right? Krishna in the Gita says so many times that to Arjuna, you better do your duty, your dharma imperfectly than someone else's perfectly. It's not here about perfect performance. Everyone can do that. That's so easy to perform perfectly. That's so easy to put on a mask, to make a show, try to impress everyone, including Krishna. Now let's go to the difficult thing. Try to be who you are, accepting all imperfections that still accompany you. That's a real deal. Krishna says, I want you for who you are. I don't want someone else, you being someone else perfectly. That's not real. There's no relationship there. We are cheating each other. Let's stop the cheating, please. Krishna's crying, basically, like lifetimes of cheating. Let's put a stop to that. Be yourself. And you're like, but I'm imperfect, I'm broken, I'm a mess. You don't know who I am. And Krishna says, I know who you are. You don't know who you are. I know. If someone knows who you are, I know who you are, Krishna says. And I already love you, and I already accept you, and you're already mine, and I'm waiting for you. That's it. So come. However you are, with whatever you are, with whatever you have, you don't have, that's of secondary importance. Just come to me. Come to me. Again, praying for a car, praying for a husband, praying for a roof. If that's what you need to be balanced in your mind in this chapter and you really need that, that's fine. That's an arrangement you are making to be balanced in your psyche, emotions, and humanity so you can engage in bhakti from a sustainable place. That will be appreciated. As long as you're not praying for a car for, so to say, for the car's sake. If you understand that the goal of life is not to have a car, or it's not to have a roof, but all those things may facilitate your pursuit of bhakti in your present chapter. So there's place for praying for all of that. Though, of course, at the same time, one could say, maybe you don't need to pray. Krishna already knows what you need, and if you are sincere, he's providing. That's also another option. But sometimes we may need to pray for that. Okay. There are different levels of faith, different parts of the journey. Sometimes devotees will pray for mercy, and sometimes devotees will not pray for mercy because they know that mercy is already coming, and I don't need to pray for mercy, like if it's not coming. There are different ways. And again, there's not one only single way to do things perfect and correct. No, we have to find which is the best possible way we can do it now, today. Tomorrow, different day. Another person, a different journey altogether. So I don't know if that helps. Katie, what do you think?
Yes, very helpful, Maharaj. Thank you so much. I feel comforted, enlightened, reassured, loved.
So you can prepare your pizza. No guilt attached.
Right. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for the question, for the invitation to share. And you are not alone in that quest again. Okay, let's continue. Gayatri, such a pleasure to have you here. So from Texas, place you can unmute yourself and share whatever you want to bring to the table today.
Gracias. Pranams, Maharaj. It's so good to see you and everyone again, always here. Hopefully this is a good follow-up question to Katie's and even our event that we had before this as well too. I'm hoping you could remind us today what the definition of raganuga bhakti is and the importance and relevance of it to our tradition as well too. Thank you.
Okay. That's lots to say about that. Thank you. And yeah, it's always a follow-up because everything is interconnected, and somehow whatever comes, it will be a follow-up. So a few words on raganuga bhakti, because again, so much can be said. A few years ago, I remember we gave a whole course on one book called Ragavartma Chandrika by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So there's a detailed reply in a 25 class format. So, but in short, so to say, raganuga bhakti, by definition, the word raga anuga means to follow in the wake of the passion. That's what raganuga means, right? Raga means passion. Anuga means to follow in the wake of, something like that. To try to embody that, to imitate, but not imitate in the negative sense. That's a whole different conversation. Like you have in Christianity, the imitation of Christ, which is not imitation in the bad sense of the term. So we can also speak about imitation in a healthy way in this case. So imitation of what or of whom? So raganuga bhakti means the bhakti or the turning toward Bhagavan, toward the divine, that somehow is inspired by the mood of love present in the inhabitants of Vrindavan, in the different, what we may call paradigmatic figures that embody different types of affection for Krishna in Vrindavan. In Vatsalya Rasa, maternal love, you have a Yashoda. In Madhurya Rasa, conjugal romantic love, you have a Sri Radha or a Rupa Manjari, depending the department. In Sakya Rasa, Priyanarma Sakya Rasa, the intimate type of friendship, love, you have someone like Subal, and so on and so forth. Raktak, Patrak, Indasya Rasa, and so on. So we have these paradigmatic figures, sometimes called Nitya Siddhas or eternal companions of Krishna, who are forms of love. Now there's another term that needs to come, and my reply will be a little bit more technical, with or without your permission, because this is the very definition of raganuga bhakti given by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says raganuga bhakti in one sense means the bhakti that follows in the wake of the ragatmikas. So you have ragatmika bhakti and you have raganuga bhakti. So what means ragatmika? Raga, we already said, means passion, passionate love. Passion in that sense. Again, another word we need to destigmatize, right? Passion. That's not a bad word. I mean, as we will see, all these paradigmatic figures that we are supposed to follow, they are made of passion. They even do not have passion. They are passion personified, because they are ragatmikas. Raga atmika. Atmika means those whose very atma, whose very being is made of raga. And so here we are talking about, and I talked about that to some length in my first book. There are different, we can speak about different categories of beings. We are tatastha jivas. We are made of what's called tatastha shakti. But the eternal associates of Bhagavan are swarup shakti jivas. They are ragatmikas. They are made of love of Krishna. We are not made of love of Krishna. That's why bhakti is not inherent in the jiva. Again, long conversation. There is a book waiting for you there in that regard. But the point is that the ragatmikas are these eternal figures, because they have to be eternal, because Krishna is eternal, and Krishna is, in one sense, you don't have Krishna isolated from an environment, right? You cannot speak about Krishna in Vrindavan without Jashoda, Radha, and Subal at some point. It's not possible. They have to be there for eternity, because in one sense, that particular form of the absolute Krishna in Vrindavan is a result of the love of the Brajavasis. As we talked the other day in Nishem Kachaturdasi, the appearance day of Radha Raman, the absolute appears in a form corresponding to the love of his devotees. So if those who personify that love are not there at one point, that form of the absolute is not there at one point, which will make no sense. Will imply, oh, Krishna in Vrindavan starts to exist at some point, which is not the case. So then we have these ragatmikas, these beings made of passionate attachment, who embody these different forms of love. Yashoda, Nanda, Vatsalya Rasa, Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Chandravali, Manjaris, Madhurya Rasa, Subal, Sridham, Madhumangal, Sakya Rasa, Raktak, Patrak, and so on, Dasya Rasa, and so on. So these are role models to follow who embody a particular mood of love. So raganuga bhakti means the bhakti that aspires to love Krishna in the mood of Vrindavan. In the beginning, it may start in a more general way. Like, let's say you arrive to the temple day one in this lifetime. Probably you are not after 10 minutes in the temple, it's like, I think I want to follow Rupa Manjari for eternity. Right? You are just relishing halava, right? And that's fine. That's great. Now, from halava to following Rupa Manjari, there may be some gap, but you're on the journey already. It all begins with halava. We all know that, right? You cannot deny that. So in the beginning, Raganuga Bhakti starts in a more general way. We will, from day one, hear about Krishna, hear about Vrindavan. That will be presented as the goal. But the specifics of that, the possibilities there, the minutiae, the details of that, those will come in time. But from day one, in one sense, we are already participating in Raganuga Bhakti of an initial level. Even if we don't have that much raga, that much passion for Krishna, we still have passion for other things. That's the generous consideration of Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha. He will refer to this as Ajata Ruchi Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, which means a type of practice of Raganuga Bhakti in which Ruchi or taste or passion is Ajata, has not been born yet. So you are not yet driven that much by the mood of the Brajavasis to serve Krishna. but somehow you are in the context of a tradition which has that type of love as its goal. So in that sense, we could say you are already practicing on some level raganuga bhakti. It's not that you start practicing Vaidhi bhakti and then you start practicing raganuga bhakti. Some of our acharyas have used expression Vaidhi bhakti in the beginning, but actually that expression of Vaidhi bhakti, they are referring to ajata ruchi raganuga sadhana bhakti, to this initial raganuga bhakti without that much taste. Because Vaidhi bhakti is a practice that goes to Vaikuntha. Not that you worship Narayan, following certain rules, regulation, and that takes you there. But if from day one you have this orientation, the goal of life is the sweetness and intimacy that happens in Vrindavan, and by this I'm also including Navadvip, because Navadvip is a natural chamber and extension of Vrindavan. One is already in the Raganuga Bhakti orbit. And of course, then it's time about one getting more familiar with the different flavors of love and getting naturally different bhakti samskars or devotional influences and impressions in sadhu sangha, in association, and gradually one will gradually feel some particular affinity in one direction or another. It can happen at one point. There's no fixed time. It's not like after 6 months you have to have your affinity. No, you may come with bhakti samskar from your previous lifetime, and that may be relatively quick in this one. It may take more than one lifetime for some to get in touch with that. Again, each journey is unique, but that's part of the journey. And of course, in the context of pursuing that specificity of Raganuga Bhakti, we should also remain broad-minded and appreciative of different moods of loving God. It's not that, okay, I become so much passionate about my own affinity that I start to defile everyone else. No, we don't find that happening. Even if we find in some cases something like that, that will be more like an ecstatic exception to the rule. Like someone being so much, like, I don't know, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he will say things like, appreciating what Mahaprabhu came to give to the world, who cares for Varahadev, he said. Who cares for what other avatars came to give? I mean, you see now, Sri Chaitanya Dev is here. Who cares for everyone else? But again, it's coming from a very ecstatic point of appreciation. He's not committing Varaha aparad. But if we copy-paste those verses, probably we will do. So we have to remain very open and appreciative. As we see our Goswamis and Mahaprabhu himself, they were very much in their own inner culture, but very much recognizing and honoring different forms of faith and bhakti whenever they met that. And they were not trying to forcefully impose themselves. So that has also to be balanced in the context of pursuing Raga Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, because I've seen also many times people pursuing Raga Bhakti in a very immature way, in a very, I will say, elitistic way, very egoic way, like, okay, I'm practicing Raganuga Bhakti, I'm in the real thing, I'm in the intimate stuff, and you still have so much stuff to solve and to heal and to put in place, and so much Siddhanta to learn, and so much fanaticism and fundamentalism to get rid of. So when you, with all that stuff unresolved, you bring the ideal of Raganuga Bhakti, that's so undesirable. Because on one level, we talk about this more subtle ideal, but represent that so poorly. So that can happen also. So we should be careful of that. Also, we should be careful of becoming overtly attached to rules and regulations and forget that the whole goal of even rules and regulations is to love God passionately. So that's another danger. That's why Rupa Goswami uses this word niyama graha in both ways in Upadeshamrita. Now, niyama grahaka means you reject all rules and regulations and you become just a wild anarchist without criterion, without proper grounding, or you follow rules and regulations without actually understanding what's the purpose of the rules and regulations. And you become just like a cyborg robot, just like fulfilling your quote and thinking Krishna wants me to give him 16 rounds per day. Not my heart. He wants a number. Really? Do you dare to insult Krishna in that way? So yeah, we have to be careful of all these things, potential pitfalls, but it's important to know that, yeah, that's the path that Mahaprabhu came to give. Prema rasa niryasa karite ashvadan raga marga bhakti loke karite pracharan Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu internally, prema rasa niryasa karite ashvadan. He came to relish the different prema rasa, the different mellows of divine love. Radha Bhav in particular, and so on. And as a consequence of that, as a byproduct, overflowing of that, Raga Marga Bhakti Loke Korite Prachara. He's doing prachar to the world of Raga Marga Bhakti, of the path of passionate devotion that we found in Golok Vrindavan, Golok Navadvip. So it's good to know, yeah, what's our lineage about, basically. and to deal and to be open to deal with that in a healthy way. And even if we were exposed to a version of an immature or toxic version of that or fanatic version of that in the past, I think it's important to remain open to the idea that that was not the actual thing. It was just a distorted version. So I don't need to reject the whole thing, but just reject the wrong representation of that and open myself to be charmed and fascinated by this. As my brother Krishna Chandra Prabhu would like to define raganuga bhakti, he will call it the path of fascination. Vaidhi bhakti is more the path of rule following, rule abiding, regulation, but raga bhakti is the path of fascination. So we have to engage in our practice in a way that is fascinating, in a way that puts us in touch with awe and wonder. We have to be close to people in our life that takes us to those places of fascination, wondering, wow, new layer of depth, new layer of breadth, new level of insight. Wow, this is endless. Wow, I could be doing this forever, as we were talking before. Wow, what's going on here? So anyhow, again, few words about Raganuga Bhakti, so much more can be said. That was the trailer to the Raga Bharma Chandrika, whatever, 34 or 5-hour course. It's there in the YouTube channel for those who dare to jump in. I hope that helps, Gayatri.
Always does. Thank you so much. I'll do my best to dive into those 35 hours as well too. And sounds like I need to bring some halva when I serve tea and coffee for y'all out there someday as well too. So thank you so much. Y'all are so beautiful.
No, thank you. Thank you. And again, no pressure, and don't feel forced like, oh, now Maharaj said all the things that I didn't know, I was not aware, so I need to be in these things as soon as possible, to be part. And sometimes we rush some of these processes, and that's not the idea. Like again, you have let's give an example, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Our tradition is based around Srimad Bhagavatam. Raganuga Bhakti revolves around the love of the Brajavasis. When you come to know about the love of the Brajavasis in the Srimad Bhagavatam, at the 10th canto, right? The book has 12 volumes. Almost at the end, Bhagavatam starts to talk about it. First, he gives you 9 cantos of other stuff that you need to internalize, to have in place as a foundation, as a bedrock, including the sacredness of the material world, including psycho-emotional balance, including realistic relationship with other fellow humans, including appreciation for other forms of faith and love. All that needs to be very systematically, nicely placed as a foundation for the temple of divine love that starts to be erected from the 10th canto onward. And then the 10th canto finishes. And that's not the end of Srimad Bhagavatam. You have Canto 11 and 12, densely philosophical, for you to reflect back what just happened in that 10th canto. What was that love of the Brajavasis? So you follow my point? It's not just, okay, let's go, verse 1 of the Bhagavatam. Of course, we can read verse 1 of the Bhagavatam speaking all about Vrindavan, and every verse, but in the general way, first there is an acquaintance with so much that is part of the project. It's not separate from Raganuga Bhakti. That's my point. It's not like, okay, I'm reading the Bhagavatam and this Vishvarupa section describing the universe as a form of God, and the mountains and the grass and different parts of God's imaginary form, cosmic form. What does this have with raganuga bhakti? It has to do. You have to learn to find the divine everywhere, starting in the immediacy of matter, because then you go to the Bhakti of the Brajavasis, and that's what they are doing, right? Krishna disappears from the Rasa Lila, and the gopis see the plants and the flowers, and they are seeing Krishna everywhere, and they're talking to them, and all for them is a guru. So it's all connected. No? So we have to be very careful that our Raganuga Bhakti project is comprehensive, not just rushing sentimentality that is unsustainable, fanatical, and exclusivistic, racist, as I like to say. You don't want to be a racist, which means to be a racist in the context of rasa, right? This is the highest rasa. You are a racist. We don't want to practice racism, no racism either. So yeah, many things need to be in place, not as a delay or as an obstacle to Raga Bhakti, but integrated as part of the same project. That's a proper understanding. So sorry, I wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next raised hand from Darin. I'm pronouncing it correctly? Darin?
Yes, Darren. Thank you, Prabhu.
Darin.
So my question is, or my desire is to understand more deeply how Krishna is personal and non-dual at the same time, and or connecting with him. And like, for example, in my state of consciousness, which I see as oftentimes Kanishta, I feel the need to call something Krishna in order to make it personal, like my breath, or I call a particular region Krishna so that I don't feel like I'm doing something impersonal. And just hoping that, yeah, just diving into any of this would be most helpful.
Thank you. I don't know if you are aware of, but of course there is a book that has been written a few years ago called Radical Personalism. And the chapter in that book that I wrote is called Non-Dual Thinking. Everything is one, but never impersonal. So I consider it important to, in a book about radical personalism, to speak about non-duality and to try to show how the two of them are not against each other, right? Because sometimes, unfortunately, especially in some devotional circles, the word non-dual is not very well taken. Now, for some people, non-dual indicates impersonal. So the result is that personal then means dual, and dual has to do with dualism, and dualism has to do with separatism, fragmentedness, and stuff. And no wonder that we see in many representatives of the tradition who think like that, they will play out their own life and practice in a very separatistic way, very dualistic, because for some reason or another, they have not made peace with the word non-dual. So it's important, as paradoxical as this may sound to our dualistic mind, because again, most of us inhabit a dualistic framework in our mind. So paradox is something that goes beyond the usual way we think about things. Paradox is more about both and instead of either or. So our philosophy is Veda Ved to begin with. Our tradition is Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. So Veda Ved means realities different and non-different simultaneously. Paradoxical, unity and diversity. So non-dualism, unity as a foundation, and diversity springing from that. As I mentioned in the book, In fact, we can only relate to each other if reality is non-dual. In other words, that reality is non-dual means that everything that exists is contained in one same vessel. Nothing exists separate from that. Nothing exists divorced in its own orbit, divorced from the center. We all, everything, each of us, every grain of sand, every atom, every spiritual spark, everything we can think of and beyond that exists contained in one single inseparable reality, vessel. And therefore everything is connected, everything is inseparably interconnected. And because of that interconnectedness, we can relate to one another. If we wouldn't have anything in common, nothing that we share in common, it will be impossible to relate with one another. We will just destroy each other at every moment, which happens a lot in this world. And that shows how unaware we are of our common non-dual foundation. That's the only reason we are seeing enemies. That's the only reason we feel the need to scapegoat people. Like scapegoating is a universal pattern in the collective unconscious. We always need someone to be bad, so we feel good. Someone needs to be the enemy, so I'm pure. Someone needs to be on the other side. Someone needs to be a Kuru, so I am a Pandava. Right? That's a pattern of the Bhagavad Gita. That's verse right there in verse 1 of the Gita. Dharma kshetri kurukshetri samabheta juyotsava pandavas mamakas shaiva kima kurvat sanjaya. Dhritarashtra is asking, what did the Pandavas and my people did in Kurukshetra? What did my people and the other ones? So he's setting that dualistic pattern. He's not having a non-dual vision. But that's the teaching, no? Srimad Bhagavatam describes reality as non-dual consciousness, Advaya Gyan Tattva. That's one of the most important verses of the Bhagavatam that I referred to in that chapter of the book. That's almost at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, 1 to 11, if my memory is not failing, and it could be probably failing. Badanti tattva vidastatvam yagyanam advayam brahmeti paramadmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. It says tattva, in this case, tattva means reality. Reality is advaya gyan, non-dual consciousness. Sorry if it sounds abstract to some, but that's the definition of reality given in the Bhagavatam. Reality is non-dual consciousness. Reality is conscious and it's non-dual. It's unified. It's interconnected. There are not two realities. There are not three realities. There are not three centers. One God, two gods, three gods. There's one reality, one center, everything orbiting around it. There's one source of all energies, and the rest is all energy connected to that energetic source, Shakti Man and Shakti. Different ways to talk about the same thing. So on the foundation of that inseparable reality, diversity can exist in harmony. Diversity is not meant to create conflict. Conflict comes only when we lose sight of the unifying ground in which all exist. So that's a good way to define conflict. You just lost sight of the ground of interconnectedness that we all share. You stop being non-dual in that moment. Non-dual doesn't mean, again, everything is one in every sense of the term, and there's only Brahman and everything else is illusion. That's what we call radical non-dualism, right? That's what we will call too much non-dualism, right? For them, the ultimate reality is only Brahman. The idea of God, of a soul, of a world, that's totally illusory. That doesn't exist. We don't subscribe to that theory. But we nonetheless embrace a form of non-duality. In fact, every mystical tradition is non-dual. All the Vaishnava schools are forms of non-duality. Vishishta Advaita, Ramanujacharya. Dvaita Advaita. Even the Dvaita of Madhvacharya, which translates as dualism, includes a form of non-duality. And ours in particular, Chintya Vida Ved. Diversity, unity in diversity. So yeah, God is a person, it's personal. Everything is radically personal, as I try to expose in my book. Everything is, the principle of relationality is brimming everywhere. If everything is interconnected, everything is inviting for a relationship. if we all share a common center, that's it. The most important thing is already in place, right? We all share the same common center, and there's reason to celebrate. So there is reason to share our diversity, our uniqueness as living beings without conflict, with an awareness of our common center. That's the way we can thrive, not only survive, but we can thrive and grow. So life is not for survival, life is meant for celebration. So yeah, non-dual doesn't mean impersonal. Non-dual just means unified, interconnected, integrated, complete, whole. I like the word whole. You have this famous verse from the Upanishads, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. You have heard the word Purnam a few times there. So that means it speaks of wholeness. No? Reality is complete. Everything is complete. Everything is part of something complete. We have completes within completes, wholes within wholes. In modern scientific terminology, that's called a holarchy. A holarchy means a group of holons, and holons are wholes that are part of a greater whole. So in one sense, everything is whole. We just are not aware of that. So Krishna's presence is everywhere. That of course, at the same time, that doesn't make everything Krishna in the ultimate, in an absolutistic sense of the term. It's not that I'm Krishna in every sense of the term. Of course, I'm Krishna in the sense that I'm part of one of his energies. That's the Abheda part of the equation. But the Bheda part, diversity, is I'm my own individual. I mean, not my own, like I depend on myself, but I'm an individual. So we should always be careful in our tradition to properly walk these two parts, Bheda, without going too much to one or the other. No? My personal opinion is we have gone too much to the Bheda side, to the diversity side, to the difference, to the dual side. And we have made our philosophy Achintya Bheda Tattva. But the philosophy is Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Abheda means non-difference. So there's half of the equation. To balance the equation, you have to talk about how things are non-different from each other in the sense of interconnected, equal, sharing a common center, non-duality. all that will balance the ultra-specified diversity that we find in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We have so much details and diversity in our tradition that without the proper non-dual foundation, we will die of an overdose of diversity. And as I said before, we end up becoming fanatics, racists, racists, and that's very unbecoming. And in my opinion, many, not everyone, but there are some people who really do not like Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Probably what they don't like about them is that they perceive that they are fanatics. And probably in some cases they are right. And of course, I'm not saying that's only happening in our tradition. That's everywhere, including in our tradition. So it's important to represent our tradition in a way that is what it is, not in a way that is something else. It's what it is. It's whole, it's broad, it's based on something non-dual. It's specific, but at the same time, it's very accommodating. But one needs to develop enough space inside to accommodate all that stuff oneself, have enough maturity to think and learn and share those things with, in a way that you don't become extremely broad, that everything can be anything, because that means everything is nothing, but not in a way that is so specific and exclusivistic that becomes like suffocating, sectarian, dangerous, cultish. So anyhow, some thoughts that came in relation to the idea of personalism and non-duality, and I don't know if that helps, Darren.
Oh, that was extremely helpful. Thank you. And I haven't reached that piece in the book yet, but I'm excited for it. So.
Oh, okay. But so if you have the book, yeah, you can check that. I don't know, that's probably chapter 9 or 10. Non-dual thinking, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so still we have some time, and we have one more raised hand from Latvia. Let's go to Nanda Kumar.
Hare Krishna to everybody. First time asking question here, so I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. It's about the escaped animal. There's this idea that the yogi is controlling this animal of the mind, the wild, untamed. And if he's not careful, it can get in trouble. So I have been reflecting on this a lot lately. For 20 years, I had, like the normal Hare Krishna program. And the last 2 years or so, it's been, I kind of fell off the wagon. Or in Latvian, you would say, iebrauc auzās. I just drove into the oats, oat field, meaning my practice of chanting Hare Krishna just kind of went, and a few other, nothing too major, but kind of regulation of my mind. And it all kind of started when I was reading books about, I took some course, compassionate care listening, and basically not just beating my mind with a shoe, you want it or you don't want it, but just being more attentive and like that. But at the same time, I think I had so many things to juggle with. Of course, it's not the place and time to do nuances here. But now, I don't know how to get back. It's, I also observe some attention deficit trouble. My wife can attest. It's been always very hard for me to chant, especially now when I've been in this very strange space, not with devotees, well, with my wife, yes, but so yeah, some more nuance could be said, but I just thought, I can't find the strength or to reference point to, because it also can be excuse. I obviously have driven in oats, and I might be using a lot of things as an excuse. Oh, I am attention deficit. I am this. Now my body is not feeling good. I need rest. You know what I mean? It can be the other end. And yeah. Hare Krishna. Here it is.
Well, thank you, Nanda Kumar, for allowing me to get to know you a little bit more. Not only me, but all of us. Here we are to share vulnerably, and we all appreciate your openness, of course. And as you say, I'm sure there's so much more nuance and details, and that may require more personal situation or dynamics, but I really appreciate the sincerity of your question, which again is your question and it's your battle, if you will, your struggle, but at the same time it's not only yours, right? It's not that you are the only one who have tasted that, no? So I think that's important to begin with, right? Not to make as much as it's our individual experience, we are not the only ones in the planet Earth going through that in the Gaudiya community. So it's important to know the collective part of the struggle. It's your problem and it's our problem. in one way or another, each one in their own way, but we will all go through times where we will need to make sense again of the whole practice. Like, this way of being a devotee doesn't work for me anymore. I mean, my whole radical personalism book is basically my confession letter of that, right? I mean, I was considering this long list of things, why not to be a Gaudiya Vaishnava, as you can read in the book, right? Not because I was planning to live the tradition, but I was like, okay, when the tradition is represented like that, I'm not that, I cannot see myself in that. So we all go in our own way through different deaths, and we need to die to many versions of ourselves, and we need to die to many versions of Krishna consciousness. And I think that many times devotees are not aware of that. They think that there's only one way to be a devotee. So whenever that doesn't work anymore, that means I have a problem. And not necessarily. Of course, I'm not talking specifically about you and Everdita because we don't know each other that much, but I'm just saying, some cases we see the problem in the wrong place, right? So it's not that, okay, there's this is the only way to be a devotee. So if you cannot fit into that box, then you have a problem. And probably not. Probably you enter into that box to begin with. You did the best you could. It worked for some time. It worked as long as it was supposed to work. And it started to fail and crumble when that was supposed and necessary to happen. And we need to interpret that for what it is, instead of thinking, I'm a failure, or I'm an aparadi, what must I be doing wrong? I lost all my faith. Probably not. Probably you just need to upgrade your version of Krishna consciousness. We need to gain a more nuanced understanding of what it means to be a devotee, what it means to be a human being that tries to relate to God. So that doesn't necessarily mean I'm betraying my tradition and moving backwards. I'm not so strict or so perfect or so, who knows what idea we have about what it means to be a devotee, because everyone carries their own stuff. Plus what we may receive, which may be accurate and at times not so accurate about what it means to be a devotee, but we also filter all that many times through unresolved trauma, projection, over expectation. So much of that needs to be deconstructed, and that can be scary also. That's a form of dying. But you can only be born to a new version by dying to the old one. That's the only way to progress. So I mean, I was listening as much as I could listen, and as much as I know you. To me, it didn't sound like any catastrophic thing going on, actually. I'm not thinking like, wow, this guy is doing things so wrongly. He's doing things so bad. He's such a deviant. Oh my God. Nothing like that, to be honest. And of course, as you say, we can cheat ourselves sometimes. I don't want to be naive with that. We could do sometimes some effort and sacrifice, and we choose not to do that. Let's be honest. As long as we remain honest, I will say that's the most important thing. That's why Srila Siddha Maharaj would paraphrase Krishna saying, sincerity is invincible, right? He's not saying you will be invincible when you are perfect. You will be invincible when you perform in this way. As long as you remain sincere, you are invincible. Even if you cheat yourself, even if you fail, at least be sincere about that. And I'm seeing that you are. I mean, you are daring to bring to the table your own vulnerable situation. That takes courage. That takes honesty. And that's, again, I'm not flattering you. It's just what it takes. So you are doing that. So something good is going on there. Some other things may need to still fall into place and be reaccommodated, reintegrated. That may take time, to be honest. It may not happen in a weekend and in a few months. But I will say that many times this type of healing and reintegration also has to take place in a safe space, with proper guidance, with proper conceptions. Again, because if we still carry some with us very narrow-minded, and I'm not saying you are doing that, but it can happen, very narrow-minded or wrong ideas, no matter how much we try to change and to improve, we are carrying with us outdated patterns that have become obsolete. And those are the main obstacles that are getting in the way of us having the experience we need to have. So it's important when we are in a safe space and with good association, we can receive support, affection, understanding, empathy, and also perspective, right? And a language even to articulate our journey in a way that makes sense. That, oh, okay, I'm not the only one in this. Okay, I can understand this from a more self-compassionate place. Okay, I can rediscover my tradition. And it's not that I need to reject my tradition to be more healthy. No, I just need to rediscover and to actually find, oh, these eternal principles that are in every wisdom tradition were there also. I just was not reading them maturely. Like, for example, what you said at the beginning about the mind. We can talk about the mind in so many ways. And I remember we were talking about this. I don't know why I remember the things, but anyhow. We're walking in a beach in Udupi with Swetpati Radhika and Amanda Vikram. I don't know why I remember that, but we were there. And we were talking, I think it was our last walk in the beach. And we were talking about how many times we forcibly make our minds our worst enemy. Maybe your mind is already your worst enemy or your enemy, but the way you relate to your mind perpetrates the same pattern more and more, reinforces this notion. But at the end of the day, the mind is not an enemy. The mind is the mind. If you are an enemy to your mind, then your mind mirrors back your enmity. And that's when we say the mind is my enemy. But the mind is just neutral psychic matter, right? It's not some ontologically evil entity inside your head. That's why Krishna is saying in the Gita 6:6, Bandhuratmatmanastasya janatmai batmanajitraha anatmanastu satrute bharte tatmai basatrubat. The mind can be your worst enemy, no doubt, but the mind can be your best friend. But we do not emphasize enough sometimes the mind can be your best friend. So we just keep making the mind the worst enemy. Do you follow my point? So at one point, I can understand that language and that emphasis, but at some other point, you need to shift the emphasis. Because if not, that emphasis that helped me in the beginning to attain whatever purpose, now instead of upgrading it, if I keep it as it is, it becomes an obstacle. So we have to learn to relate to our mind in a friendly way. Even the Manasiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking to his mind. He's having a conversation with his mind. He's showing dialogue, relationality. It's not that I hate you, you, my worst enemy, I will never talk to you. He starts the whole Manasiksha, oh, my dear mind. So I'm just giving that example in how we can address one same thing from a place that is more negatively oriented and probably not so healthy at certain stage of the journey, and how at some time we may need to take another perspective and have a more positively oriented, user-friendly approach, not only to the mind, but to Krishna consciousness as a whole, and develop a more integrative vision of what Bhakti means. Not so much, oh, chanting my rounds, that's Bhakti. And if I cannot do that, I'm a failure. And everything else doesn't matter because I cannot chant my rounds attentively. I'm not just making something light out of that, but I'm just saying be careful of not being overtly reductionistic with something. And I know that in certain devotional backgrounds, the chanting of the rounds is like the most emphasized thing. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that's one way to take it, but that's not the only way to take it. I mean, the process for Kali Yuga is not chanting japa, it's Harinam Sankirtan. And we have many examples in scripture of people who attain perfection not through chanting, but through listening, through dancing, right? Parikshit Maharaj attained perfection listening the Bhagavad in a few days. I don't think he ever chanted one single round during those days. And again, I'm not discouraging chanting of japa with this. I'm just saying, be careful of becoming like obsessed with, I have to do this, and if I do that, everything is okay. If I do not do that, everything is wrong. And if I'm finding some difficulty in chanting japa, to give an example, okay, we have to take a pause and not stop chanting maybe, but recalibrating why I chanting, from which place I'm chanting, how I'm relating to the name, how time I spending cultivating my relationship with the name, what's my understanding of the name as Krishna, how much do I pray as if there's someone else with me in that moment. So sometimes we need to enter into that space before just starting. So again, I'm just throwing general considerations. Every case is different and every need is very specific, but many times when we feel some devotional practice doesn't work, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It may mean that it's inviting us for a new approach, a new depth. It's like a relationship, right? Chanting the name of Krishna is just developing my relationship with God. So sometimes in relationships we find, oh, we are stuck with one another in the relationship. It doesn't mean I need to discard you from my life. It's just an invitation, okay, where we are stuck. What do we need to learn from here? How can we grow from each other? What do we need to change? Let's think about that. So chanting the name is non-difference. It's you and Krishna in a relationship. So what may be getting in the way? How do I need to approach that practice or any other practice again? How to make my bhakti practice sustainable? At the end of the day, Krishna wants us happy. He loves us. Don't forget that part either, right? We are loved unconditionally by Krishna. That's already happening. Sorry to bring that, but as long as when we lose sight of that, that's a problem. So I think that's one of the main things to bring first to the picture. You're already loved, fully accepted, unconditionally regarded by the Sweet Absolute. Let's build up on that. Up on that, not looking for that as the goal to attain. That's a foundation that already is there. On that foundation, try to chant japa, to return the embrace to Krishna by the embrace that he already has thrown us, through us. Or chant japa or do whatever, whatever else, other engagement. On that foundation, already loved, already accepted. Wow, unconditional love gives you unconditional, unlimited freedom. Oh, I can be myself. I'm already loved. I'm free. Right? Anyhow, some considerations, again, still they are general. Eventually, we may require more personal, specific exchange for more details, but very deeply appreciated your sharing. And I don't know if some of that makes sense, helps you, or something else you'd like to share, Nanda Kumar.
Thank you. That was it's so nice to be, I don't know, be heard, and also, I mean, you said many things, and I was just thinking that maybe I'm impatient with something, and I'm focusing and blaming certain aspect, which is maybe not in my control right now. And thank you for saying that maybe there will be a chance to meet and have a more fine-tuning. Thank you.
I didn't say maybe. That has to happen. You have no free will in that one, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, patience is an important virtue for all of us, not only for you. Patience, it's a way of showing to Krishna that we trust in his unfolding, that we trust that he's orchestrating as much as he can in our lives. And yeah, patience allows us to trust that unfolding and to pay attention to what's already coming in the present and do whatever we can in the here and now, trusting that the remaining will come in accordingly. Yeah, important virtue. Thank you. Thank you. So we are almost on time, but I'm seeing Radha Priya raising her hand. So I don't know if of course, I will invite her to unmute herself and share whatever she has to share. I'm just don't have that much time, as I would like to have to honor whatever you have to share. Probably it's some commentary, some thought, or maybe it's a question. Whatever you would like to bring, Radha Priya, please, always welcome and happy.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I don't have a question. It was just I need to release the pain in my body of not knowing how to raise my hand through the whole of Bhakti Rasa's birthday and this. And I just learned how to raise my hand, and so I really just wanted to. I've not really been. I don't have internet where I live, you know. So, and I'm not very much online anyway. But the pain of the disconnection made me raise my hand just so that I can offer my love and respect and gratitude to you and the beautiful souls that you gather here. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to September. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radha Priya. It's always an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I don't know why I was struck by when you say I just learned to raise my hand, and of course you were referring to Zoom, but I took it to a more metaphysical level, and how many times for years in our life, we don't learn to raise our hand, right? We don't have a voice. We don't know when to say, what to say. And I'm not putting you in that situation, but I was just thinking, yes, sometimes we need to learn how to raise our hands and say whatever we need to say and present ourselves as we need. And yeah, I'm honored and happy that we are all together building this hopefully safe space, sacred vessel, so everyone can feel invited to raise their hands. What questions, with not questions, sharing, expressions, vulnerability, whatever needs to be brought to the table, and at least in some way or another, as much as this particular Zoom dynamics allow, trying to honor and promote that spirit. So thank you, Radha Priya, for being part of that. Thank you for reminding us also about Bhakti Rasa's birthday again, to end up in full circle. Happy birthday, Bhakti Rasa, one more time. Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta